Welcome to the Old Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Happy holidays, Dan.
What?
Happy holidays.
Again, it seems like you're putting on a character. Like that isn't that's not how you
You
would say
know,
happy holidays
I
to
went
me.
back
Look,
and
I
I
just got
looked.
back from the theater and I'm going to need a couple of minutes up top.
I
But
no
go ahead.
longer say, "How's it going, Dan? How you doing tonight, Dan?" Because you're like, you sound fake. I'm like,
Yeah, but
I'm wishing
it's
you happy holidays, for
but it's a
God's
performance.
sakes.
Like
I'm
pretend we're
not
not
performing.
you are. Pretend we're not recording. How would you
Happy
first of all,
holidays,
you wouldn't
Dan.
even wish me happy holidays. Let's be honest
No,
about
I would
it.
say happy holidays, Dan.
What a festive way to start off.
Good
This is
Lord.
this is gonna be probably our last episode of 2024 as we take a break for the holidays. And before we do, we thought we would get on here and talk about the best and the worst of 2024, maybe a little bit of a commentary about what we're anticipating for 2025.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I said this on one of our last episodes, and I don't say it that often, but I literally just walked in the door,
Yes.
got into the studio, coming back from the theater, and I went and saw. Now, Mike, just give me a second. Give me
Okay.
a second, okay?
Okay.
I need a minute, just a minute. Now, you know how I feel about Aquaman 2. Followers of the show know how I feel about Aquaman.
One of the few movies not in my collection, thanks to you. And I
Right.
mean that positively.
And anybody that's been following the Old Brother podcast for any stretch of time knows how you and I feel about the film Napoleon by
Yes.
Ridley Scott. Gladiator 2 is such a terrible piece of
Wow.
I'm angry because, Mike, 2 minutes in, I'm like, there's no originality. There's no writers anymore. Can we get Tony Gilroy to just write everything in Hollywood?
They told the same story.
The same, and I thought they may not go down that road. And then sure enough, they leaned in and they leaned in heavy. It was great to see Connie Nielsen. Okay, great to
Correct.
see. But then they just pulled out every trope from the first film. I'm so aggravated by this, Mike. I'm so annoyed that I
Same thought I
spent my
had.
money, went to the theater to see this dog.
What did
And
this
again,
cost you?
it cost me almost $20 plus the parking, plus I actually bought some popcorn, if you can believe it or not.
Wow. So you're
So
over $20.
right.
And people, what I want to point out is when we go to the movies, we always want to like it. We go
Yes.
in hoping it's going to be good,
And I just watched the original yesterday as
which
of this
is
recording.
excellent.
Hadn't seen it in 20 years, probably since it came out in 2000. And I said to you, I forgot how good this was.
And I think I
This
responded like, I knew it was good. It won the Oscar, but I I felt the same way as you did. It's even better than I remembered.
Mike, Sophie's Choice, for those that know the reference, you can only take one with you, Gladiator 2 or Napoleon.
Oh my God. I'd take Gladiator 2 over Napoleon. That's how bad Napoleon was.
That that is terrible.
Wow.
Should we be surprised or amazed that it did 55 million in its opening weekend? Because it's only been out as of this recording for a couple days.
And newsflash, Dan, that total is up to 146 with international.
Well, it's worldwide, it's 221.
Okay, so you
It's
must have got
even more.
today's
I got today.
edition. Yeah.
But I think that's
And
where
we
it's gonna
also
stop.
have Wicked, which neither one of us are gonna go to the see that one.
No, I'll see it when it hits streaming,
Yes,
but I'm
but
not in the hype of
how
wanting
many
to go see
people
it.
know that's Wicked Part 1? As soon
Right.
as I read that, I'm like, that's a no sale.
Good point. Good point. So look, this isn't an episode railing on Gladiator 2, although it could be.
It could be.
But I'm so disappointed. This is 2 in a row for Ridley Scott. This is just 2 terrible films in a row. Now, unlike Mike, the film I just also watched at the same time that I went back and did a rewatch of Gladiator,
Yeah.
and this is the polar opposite here, right? Which is it took 35 years to get this film, Beetlejuice by Tim Burton. I love the film. No wonder it's done over $1 billion.
this
And Mike's holding it up, the 4K Ultra. And Mike, why is it? The difference is in the story. Beetlejuice can be a totally independent film, totally
Yes.
standalone from the original, but it pays just the right of homage to the
Yeah.
first film without going overboard.
I had a few issues with it. Willem Dafoe.
He was
What
great
was
in it.
he doing in the movie?
I loved it because he's playing this what he thinks he's a cop, but he was really an actor. But in the afterlife, it's just throughout
Yeah.
the film, it's like Tony Atlas in the Vince McMahon series. Anytime they cut to Willem Dafoe, I just started laughing because he would deliver these lines.
That were
It
absurd.
it was so absurd. He was so over the top as an actor cop. It was great. I actually
And
loved him in it.
Michael Keaton couldn't have
Yeah.
played it better.
But
I mean, he
no,
went
he could.
right back.
He really did. And they all knew what was riding on this. I mean, it was no surprise, right? They'd been talking about doing it for at least 10, 15 years. They've been getting together in secret meetings and will it happen? Won't it happen? But again, the reason it took so long because it needed to be the right story.
Right.
It needed to be
A
the right story.
and this is right out of his head. I mean, he didn't
Yeah.
write it, but first of all, Keaton is doing a lot of improv. A lot of
Mhm.
his stuff is improv.
Just like the
Se
original. Yeah.
Second, the effects are real. They're not digital. And we talked about that with Godzilla -1 last year, which we
Right.
both really liked. That makes a difference when
Mhm.
he opens his chest and all his guts come pouring out. It's real.
It was actually his guts, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But you know what I found most interesting though about this, and I don't know how you feel about it, and I was listening to the commentary from Tim Burton because
oh,
I
okay. I watched some of the extras.
yeah, and it's loaded with extras, by the way.
Yes.
So if you're like me and you become a digital collector, this is a good one. Was the way that they handled the Jeffrey Jones character of Charles Dietz. I
Okay.
was fascinated by that.
Now you're gonna have to answer the question for me because I read everything and I couldn't find why he wasn't in it. He's still alive.
You couldn't find you Google did you sure you Googled the right name?
I looked him up on IMDb. I
Okay,
saw a
let's
recent picture and he
without
looks
getting too
rough.
without getting too deep into it, let's just say he's on a certain registry that he needs to notify,
Oh,
let's say,
okay.
residents in an area where he might be in a domicile,
See, I'm not gonna
perhaps.
find that on IMDb,
No,
and
you're
that's where I
not.
was looking, but the way they
Right.
handled it was brilliant.
But it was also weird because he was kind of a central character in it still throughout
He was.
because of Delia, their relationship.
Right, the
So
whole Dietz family, this is really focused mostly on them.
it is, and Burton doesn't even there's no reference or mention of it at all, even when those scenes, the sequences of
Yes.
Charles Dietz, and he uses and this is nothing new for Burton, but the stop motion,
Right.
this is a perfect opportunity for him to use it to tell that character's story.
To go back to your point about getting it made, Winona Ryder, who really her career got reinvigorated with Stranger Things.
Mhm.
Remember, she was kind
Yeah.
of a pariah. I call it the Godfather 3 curse.
Yeah,
Seems
it's
like
a
when
little
she dropped out of Godfather 3, her career took a plunge. She had the shoplifting thing going down,
yeah.
but she made a comeback in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But she pulled the Duffler brothers who I think Duffer Brothers, Duffler, one of the 2.
Is that Dunder Mifflin? I don't know.
No, it's the brothers that are doing, that do Stranger Things. She told them when she took the part, "If Beetlejuice 2 starts, I need time off."
Write him out. Yeah.
And we find out it didn't come to get. I mean, it's been worked on for a long time, but
Right.
it kinda happened because if it didn't happen now, it would have never happened.
And they made quick work of it too. I mean, it was a quick shoot.
It was a quick shoot. It was the
Quick shoot.
exact same length as the first shoot,
Yeah. Yeah.
which Burton talks about.
But I brought it up only because it is on the list of this year's films. Of course, now as is Gladiator 2, but just the stark difference. And again, this has probably been the thing, Mike, in 2024 that has been the bane of our existence and so many other audience goers with not only feature films, but these streaming series like The Acolyte and so forth. Because
Right.
we're getting this Drek. This Drek You give me
If
Drek Patel?
if you don't
Money in a
Patel,
mattress?
Money in a Mattress, if you don't think Disney has screwed the pooch with Star Wars, and you're a
Oh,
much bigger Star Wars fan than I am,
awful,
but ever
awful.
since Disney has taken over, only Jon Favreau has been able to salvage it. And the two one-offs, not part of the
Mhm.
Skywalker series, Rogue One and Solo. Those are
Yeah.
the only two decent movies they've done. And one
Mhm.
series, which is Mandalorian, and I also liked the Darth Vader series, which they instantly
Kenobi.
canceled,
Kenobi.
Kenobi. But Ahsoka's coming for a second season, and that was
Don't
horrible.
Kenobi might surprise us and find its way back for a season 2
I
because
hope so.
Ewan has made no secret that he's down to do it,
Both of them wanna do it.
as would Hayden, yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, I guess let's leave it there. I didn't I
Yeah,
really
because there
just
was
couldn't
no
help it.
Star Wars to celebrate this year.
My drive home was just, I gotta get in and I gotta get this out. I needed to it was like an exorcism. I needed to get it
And
out because I
to
was so
your point,
pissed off.
there was so many tropes. Okay, we saw this from the first, so this is the first, the first, the first. The only thing different was the ending,
Mhm.
which instead of ending it in a dramatic fashion like the
Right.
first one, they end it like it's a
It
happy
and it
ending.
went off a cliff.
It went off a cliff.
And look, we love Denzel. Everybody loves
He's
Denzel.
great.
He had no business being in this movie.
No.
Because I'm not saying it was, but it just looks like a paycheck at this
Yeah.
point. Because it really was. I'm King Kong up in this empire. Like that's really what it comes off
And there's
as.
no way, and it takes place
Mm.
to let people know since we're talking about it, it takes place 16 years after the death of Maximus. No,
Marcus
not
Aurelius.
Marcus Aurelius Caesar.
Richard Harris. Is
Richard
character.
Harris, who was fantastic in a very
Fantastic.
small part.
Fantastic. Yeah. As was Joaquin. Joaquin was awesome.
Joaquin was excellent.
Russell, everybody was great. Connie,
They
they
were
were all
all
great in that
Connie, they're all great.
film. Yeah.
But here, I don't know what Denzel Washington's character was doing in this story.
I think it was like they were trying to do like a parallel, uprising of the slave story, I think,
Well, they
and it just
focused
didn't
on
work.
her son, which
Right,
is that's the only movie that could be made, right? If you think
right,
of Gladiator 2, the only way you make that is if you focus on Connie Nielsen's son,
right,
who we find out in this movie, we didn't find out in the first, but we find
right.
out in this movie she sent him away after the death of Maximus.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, because I didn't like the fact that they shot these sequences that were supposed to be from the end of the first one, and it just
Correct.
didn't work. It's a totally different kid.
Right.
I just didn't like it. I
They
didn't like
used
it
a
at all.
doppelganger that wasn't
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah, it's very just highly disappointing. So this without the surprise, this is on my worst of 2024 list. So
I
let's
have a
dive
tough
right in.
time, Dan. I have a
Let's
tough time.
I have a tough time too, Mike. And I'll be honest with you, Beetlejuice is on the best. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
Jim
normally, I don't think it would have been on my best, but
really?
this year it would be.
Hey everyone, if you love movies, hit that subscribe button and join us for more amazing episodes on the Oh Brother podcast.
Don't miss out.
And don't forget to leave a comment and share with your friends. Yeah, so Beetlejuice for me, anyways. And then Jim Henson Idea Man, which you mentioned, that is on the list for sure. I have to say, I did put Kinds of Kindness. I was really struggling with that Yorgos Lanthimos situation, but then I became more of an admirer of his filmmaking style, and certainly the acting was impeccable, the casting was great.
It made
Um,
16,000,000,
it's a
which for
difficult
that
wa
kind of movie isn't
it's a
bad.
difficult watch. It's a difficult
Very
watch.
difficult.
But, again, of the ones that are on this list, and keep in mind, these are sort of the major films that were released in 2024 that we've seen,
Yes.
right? I don't know, on a rewatch, I may feel differently, but I did, and no surprise because you made this comment, but I did have Civil War on my best of. I think I would be remiss if I didn't have Furiosa on my list. And I did write it down, and I know that
Right.
we couldn't have been on more
Right.
opposite sides of the spectrum
Right.
there.
And I've
But I
done a rewatch since.
did you? And you feel the same way?
Didn't change my mind.
Yeah, and and right out of the gate, I liked it. So, that's a grace. I'm being very kind with that list,
Yeah.
but Deadpool and Wolverine is on my worst, despite the money it did.
Right.
It's like half and half. It's not a terrible film by any
And it did
stretch.
over a billion.
Exactly. So
The
for me to
only
sit here and
the
say,
only
"Oh, it was
film
on
to
my worst
beat it
list,"
was Inside Out 2, which I don't
Mhm.
think you've seen
I
yet.
didn't. I didn't
It's on
see that.
Disney
Yeah.
Plus now.
Right.
That's on my list. But
Now,
I
what
know
about
you didn't see it, so we kind of agreed not to go off
right?
each
But
other's
that's okay.
list.
Yeah, if you're making that mention that it was on your list. What about Beverly Hills Cop Axel F?
Again, I thought it was good. It was 100 times better than 3,
But you can't rate it as a
but I
best of
can't rate it as a
2024.
best.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We also had Knox Goes Away. Did you see that Michael
I
Keaton
did with
film?
Michael Keaton and Al Pacino.
A solid film. I just don't think it's a best
Right.
of the year, but it was
Although,
good.
if I'm forced to
Right.
give you 5, that would probably be on it.
Yeah, to see, I don't
Only
think it would.
because by
Mhm.
default, and I watch almost a movie a night. Like,
Yeah.
these movies I own, they're not for looks or to impress anybody, because I would say don't do it. But I have such a big library. Every night of the week, I can watch a great movie.
Right.
And when new movies come out, I like to see them, hoping that I'm gonna enjoy it, but we don't wanna throw 2.5 hours of our
No.
life out the window like with Gladiator 2.
Yeah, that was so yeah, don't get me started on that again. But, the honorable mentions for me would be Knox Goes Away, The Bike Riders, which I told you I saw that on a
I
flight to
didn't see it.
London. The, Red Right Hand I put on there. You can't really put it up there just given the scope of its release. It wasn't in,
Right.
thousands of theaters and things like that. Yeah, hey, by the way, I picked up Fat Man. Now this is Nelms. Hey, Nelms, Johnny, Michelle, the crew. If you don't think that we're committed, now I already own this in
I
physical.
know.
I already own it in digital. But I told you the other night, I've made this final decision. I've switched to Apple, and that's it. I'm sticking with Apple.
Wow.
So now this is going to irritate you, not as much as it irritated me. But Mike, I went A to Z to figure. Sorry about this tangent, but I got to get it out. I went A to Z of the movies that are in my Fandango at home, but not my
Apple.
Apple library. And sure enough, Fat Man is not in the Apple library. So if I'm committing, I have to,
Right.
right? So I
And
bought it
I
for
rarely
$9.99.
watch digital films.
It's loaded with extras too.
Yeah.
So I could not get it for, less than
But
$10.
let's take a look at the last 3 Nelms Brothers movies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Red Right Hand,
Mhm.
Fat Man, and Small Town Crime. Now, 2 of those movies are great. I mean, top 5.
Yeah.
Red Right Hand, I don't think is at that level. Now, they didn't write the movie.
Mhm.
Somebody else wrote it. They usually write their own stuff. I think Ian does a lot of the writing, but it's a, you know, duo. But, you know, I think my issue with Red Right Hand, why I wouldn't put it as on a best list,
I know why,
is one actor.
which is so shocking for both of
Shocking because I
us.
love her.
Right, Andy McDowell.
Annie
Yeah,
McDowell, who
yeah.
plays kind of the heavy, which is totally against, type.
Right, and I think this is one that deserves, multiple rewatches because I think
It does.
I think in time that's gonna grow on us a little
And
bit
the
more,
and the
but
supporting performances more than make up for it.
yeah, yeah, shout out to,
Gareth Dillahunt
and Kenny Miller, shout out to Kenny
Kenny
Miller.
Miller and
Red Right Hando is on my honorable mention, so I still have
yeah,
it on there,
it's
so
I would put it on an honorable mention. I have no
yeah,
problem with that.
just still wanna stay in good graces with the Nelms brothers. Speaking of which
Yeah.
this has no relevance to this, episode, but I saved this because I needed to tell you about it. This is, from WrestlingZone.com, Mike. This is a website you may be familiar with. Now,
No.
we talked about on a past but we did a review of Mr. McMahon on Netflix.
Yes.
So we were talking a lot about wrestling. Kurt Angle is one of those characters that didn't really come up in the conversation much that I recall.
Right.
But the headline of this article on WrestleZone.com from just a couple days ago, as of this recording, Kurt Angle says John Bernthal helped land Red Right Hand directors for his new movie. So
Wow.
Kurt Angle is working on some sort of autobiographical type film. I don't know if it's fully, I don't think it's fully autobiographical,
Right.
but it sounds like the Nelms brothers are going to be behind the camera on this.
Wow, that's gonna be one I'll see right away.
Yeah, so I was just like, "Whoa, okay, little breaking news
I
there."
mean, I
So
know his career pretty well from the Olympics on into
that's right.
WWF,
Yeah,
and
I'll send you. I was just waiting till we got on air and
yeah, that's
share
great
it with.
news.
So, what else is on your list that we didn't mention? Do you have any
Well,
best notes that didn't get
no, I have a
mentioned?
couple of more dogs.
Oh, Quiet Place Day 1, right, right.
I
I
mean,
agree. It was a letdown after the
call
first
it
2.
Quiet Place Los Angeles or wherever the location was,
Yeah,
because there was nothing new.
right.
It had nothing to do with the other 2. In fact, it happens on the same day as part 2, which
Right.
doesn't make any sense
It
logistically.
it's kind of the same thing that Gladiator 2 suffers from. It's like, okay, I like seeing Digimon Hunsu again. I love him as an actor. By the way, he was in Gladiator.
He was in
He was
Gladiator.
in Gladiator. So, but
And
it just didn't work for me either. So I agree with you on that one.
another one that you haven't seen yet,
Mm.
but I was so disappointed was Fall Guy, and I've had a chance to rewatch it.
You still feel the same way?
I
Because
still
that's why.
feel the same way.
Okay, that's why I didn't invest in watching it
Yeah,
because you
but
just said what a dog it was.
I'll give it this, when I got into the extras and I saw the stuff that Ryan Gosling had done.
Because you have it over your shoulder there
I
with
do, I have it
with Red Right Hand, by the way.
right, I have them both over there. I
Yeah.
wanted to like it
Hey, and
so much.
by the way.
Oh, look it, you got the red ro I got the generic "Oh Brother" one,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just I don't know, there's an energy, there's a humor that should be there that's not, and
I
as much
think
as the stunts are great, it just didn't work.
I think that's a Ryan Gosling thing. I think he's
Although I've loved him in
no,
his
he's
other
great, but
stuff.
it's sometimes I think that's him. He doesn't have the same charisma as a Ryan Reynolds, for example. But
S
people would say Ryan Gosling, okay, Barbie, hello, Ken. I mean,
Right.
but even still, his portrayal of, I mean, he's portraying a doll for crying out loud. So he's,
Yeah, that I
you
thought
know,
that was a good one. I don't have any
no,
problem
I
with
didn't say it
that.
was bad. It's just,
Right.
I just, there's, like you said, there's some energy or
Yeah,
something
there
that
was an
isn't there,
energy, and I thought the chemistry between him and Emily Blunt would be great.
but it wasn't great.
It just didn't feel right. It
Mm.
was like, "Nah, they're not in
Yeah.
love."
So what else besides, Quiet Place Day 1? Any others on there? Any other
You
dogs?
mentioned Deadpool, which is on my
Yeah.
dog list. Yeah, I think you mentioned all of the ones I was gonna bring up.
No, I was just gonna say, films that we're anticipating for what's on your list for 2025.
And again, I hope these don't like 2024 was a big year that I was
Mhm.
excited one after
Right.
another. Furiosa, I was excited. Fall Guy, Quiet Place. It was like every week I felt
Yeah.
like, okay, this is gonna turn it around. It
Mhm.
just didn't happen.
Right.
But on my 2025 list, and this probably won't be on yours, is Captain America Brave New World.
Yeah, I could care
I'm
less.
hoping that pulls Marvel out of a funk. And
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is on my
that's on
list.
my list too. There's a couple that we may be doing on Halloween Fest that I'm really
Okay.
excited about.
Such as?
First, 28 Years Later, which is a direct
Oh,
sequel to 28 Weeks Later, which
uh,
is a sequel
yeah,
to 28 Days Later.
yeah. I gotta get caught up on that, but yeah.
Final Destination.
Oh, I'm
Have you
not gonna go
seen
back
those
and watch
films?
now.
Scary Movie 6, which makes fun of all the movies. Now,
Yeah.
we haven't seen one of those in like 20 years. So there's a lot of movies for them to make fun of.
I saw there was a Michael B. Jordan film, Sinners, that I saw the trailer for in front of Gladiator 2. I don't know. I didn't really get it. It was pretty bad. Snow White is coming, the
That's
live
right.
action Snow
I'm
White.
not excited about that because I can't think
Mike
of any live action I've liked.
Mike gonna be excited for the Minecraft movie?
No,
Again, I think it's too much with Jack Black, but
and I
that's
don't
just
play the
me.
game.
Mickey 17. Now, Mickey 17, we did a first look on, and we were pretty intrigued by the trailer for that. With
Ironically, last night as I'm going to bed, like 1 o'clock, I flip
Mhm.
on the TV and there's Multiplicity. And I had to watch the first half hour. I just couldn't turn away.
So you're relating that to Mickey 17 in
Yeah,
a way?
because I think it's very similar.
I think it's more about
It's kind of a
him dying.
copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah, okay,
I think
that's a
we'll
stretch.
see. We don't
That's a
really
stretch.
know, but
Thunderbolts, you're not anticipating?
not as
That's up
much
your
as Captain America.
I know one that we're not anticipating, which is the film Ballerina. I know that we're not
Correct. We
looking
did a
for
first
that
look.
one.
How
Yeah.
about here's one for you in your hometown, Tron Ares
No.
with Jeff Bridges coming back.
No, I don't like it.
Now that was
I don't like
supposed
it.
to happen 20 years ago.
M
So,
Megan 2.0, perhaps? We covered Megan, so we
yeah.
might have to
Eh,
cover Megan 2.0. F1 from Brad Pitt, I don't think so.
although
I'm
it's highly anticipated.
yeah, it is, Jurassic World,
No,
you know, I haven't gotten to okay, here's one that I'm anticipating. We can't sit here and say we're not gonna see it, okay? But the attitude with which we're going into it with
it's not
Superman
good.
Superman,
Oh, I want it to be good, but from what I've seen
what we've seen
and what
and
I've
heard,
read, I'm not
right.
excited about it.
I think those are the only, I mean, the next Saw is supposed to come out
That's
next
right,
year.
and it's unclear. At first, it was said that it was gonna be a direct sequel to the last one. Yeah, and Wolfman is on my list
Okay. All right.
because who's the, actress? Julie Garner. I can't wait to see her in Wolfman.
Black Phone 2?
Maybe,
I'm
that was
nervous
a
though.
surprise,
It
yeah.
should it should be a one and done, right? I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to Mortal Kombat 2. First one was a dog. Edgar Wright is coming with The Running Man I told you about. And
That's right.
we had just done a Shaun of the Dead
Yeah,
episode. So that's intriguing
it
to see
is,
what
and
he might do with that.
I actually like the original with Schwarzenegger.
Uh-huh.
So,
Schwarzenegger.
with
Sh
Wright at the helm,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be bad.
Well, listen, Wicked Part 2, and then you got Five Nights at Freddy's Part
Part
2.
2. Yeah, Wicked, I wanna see next week's receipts,
Mhm.
like, and Gladiator 2, because
Yeah.
they both it's kinda like a Barbenheimer thing,
Right.
Wickedinator or whatever you wanna call it. Let's see what happens week 2. Let's see how
Yeah.
much the drop is. They'll both drop. How
I don't think
significant?
I don't think Wicked's gonna have as much of a drop off as Gladiator
Maybe
2.
not,
That's
and
my
people are
prediction.
off
Yeah,
this weekend,
right,
right? So there's gonna
right.
be a lot of people at the movies watching shitty movies, quite
Mhm.
frankly.
It really is terrible. There's nothing out there, and then when I went back and looked at the 2024 releases, I would say a good third of them were re-releases, right?
Yeah,
And most of those were Disney films because they don't know how to do an original story anymore.
and Bob Iger has come out
They've
flatly and said, "We're gonna make less movies. That's how we're gonna get better." No,
they've
that's not the answer, Bob. Make good movies.
That's all gonna change, folks, when Screamboat hits a theater near you.
I hope they really
Steamboat Willie and
I
Screamboat.
hope they do a number on them.
Well, there you go. There's the best and worst, in our opinion, of 2024. How about you? Let us know what your top films of the year
And
were,
don't
and
rag on us. Give us your list,
this is just our opinion. What are you getting
Right.
all
Don't get all
relaxed?
bent out of shape.
What are you getting bent out of shape for? I'm saying,
No, I'm
relax.
I'm
Who
just
gives a
saying.
shite? But yeah, no, I want to hear what other folks' top films were, and I'm sure Deadpool is on that list for most people.
Right, and I
And I
told you,
didn't
I
hate it,
went
but
on somebody's they had a 49 top 10 list, and the only film I had seen
was Deadpool.
was was Furiosa.
Oh, okay, okay,
I hadn't they were all, like, indie films that,
yeah.
just isn't our kinda it's not our swimming
I
pool.
don't want the what's that?
I have a lotta indie films that I love, but
Yeah.
I usually find them 3 or 4 years after they come out.
I do not want the Old Brother podcast to be relegated to reviewing just streaming films. I really don't. I want to go and enjoy myself at the theater, but between the people in the theater that I can't stand to, the films as horrible as they are lately, it's just this might be one of the worst years I can recall in recent memory.
I said that to you last night. I was like, I can't even come up with 3
Yeah, it's bad.
that
Yeah.
I would call great, never mind good.
Right. And that's how I would preface my list to say these are not the only 2 Beetlejuice and Idea Man, the Jim
Yeah.
Henson documentary. Those are the only 2 that are like
And
standouts for
we're
me
in total agreement with Idea Man. I think that's the best film
of
of
20
this
absolutely.
year I saw from Ron Howard.
I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you go, Mike. That's the best and worst of 2024. And that's not only going to do it for another episode of the Old Brother podcast, but, we're going to take a break here for the holidays and then we'll come back fast and furious.
We'll be heading right towards year 5. We're
That's
in
right.
year 5, really. It's like 4.5. So
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be back with much more in 2025. But yeah, drop some comments on the video. Let us know what your best and worst lists
point
are.
us in the direction of some good films.
They're not out there. They're just not out there.
I know. If they are, tell us.
Other than
Oh,
what we
I
mentioned.
do have to mention one film I saw that I really liked, which was Conclave.
Okay,
Little
great.
bit.
Yeah, just came out 2 days ago.
I know, but I
As the
saw it
Gladiator too, but
and I
Yeah.
went,
sure you're gonna get a lot of folks to the theater with that
well,
recommendation.
no, but I have to point
greatest
it out because
Church
I don't want
movie of the year.
the greatest scandal
Yeah.
in the Catholic Church for years. No,
All right, wait, I've
it,
been
it
trying
covers
to
a lot more.
been trying to do
quite
this
good.
outro. Hey, by the way, where the hell are the Funkos?
That's what I want to know.
Oh, they didn't show up yet?
Nope.
Jesus, I swear they shipped like a week ago.
I'm looking at the steps every day. Like, where's my Funko?
I thought for sure you got them and you were waiting to just kind of pull them out on the episode here.
No, I was gonna literally
All
start
right.
the episode with just my Funko Pop.
Okay. All right. That's disappointing. Another disappointment in 2024, folks. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Old Brother Podcast. When your host, Dan Smith, alongside me as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you later.
Bye, everyone.